From now through October, CBS 8 will be airing monthly stories here at Liberty Station as San Diego anticipates the Centennial celebration.
My name is Ray Flores, and I am the Executive Director of the San Diego Veterans Coalition. The Veterans Coalition was established in 2009. We have over 160 members. Our member organizations provide all manner of support and service for 1.1 million San Diego County residents who are service connected. I had the opportunity to go to Recruit Training Command here at the Naval Training Center in June of 1979. I was 17 years old. I came here, went through my Recruit Training Command, went right across the street, which would be the starboard side of the USS Recruit where I'm standing, at the Anti-Submarine Warfare Training Center, where I learned the art of finding submarines. And I enjoyed a 21-year career hunting, chasing, finding foreign navies and their submarines. 17 years old, I joined the U.S. Navy. In June, and I had just graduated from high school a year early, I board a bus with about 30 other young men my age in Los Angeles, and we come down to go to recruit training. Now, there were 30 of us on the bus. Approximately 7 were going to be U.S. Marines. And the bus made its first stop right across the water over at the Marine Corps Recruit Training Depot. As the bus pulled up, we could look out the windows and see that there were these yellow footprints all painted onto the pavement where the new recruits are going to stand. And that for the 7 young men that are going to get off this bus and be Marines, there were 14 drill instructors waiting for them, 2 per recruit. The drill instructors stormed onto the bus, literally dragged these poor men off the bus, had them standing on those yellow footprints, and are just going to work on them. And I mean, we're looking through the windows going, holy cow, we're going to go across to the Navy and we're going to get killed. The bus leaves the Marine Corps Depot. We drive over right to the spot, just about 50 feet from where the bus dropped us off. It was about 5 o'clock at night. There's absolutely no one here. We get off the bus, we're standing next to this ship, the USS Recruit, and we have no idea what to do. There was a industrial-sized laundromat right across the street here. It served beer and sandwiches. We went inside, and that was my first experience in the Navy, was meeting a bunch of really fun guys and having a beer with them. A young petty officer drove over the bridge from the Recruit Training Command in a basic white Navy pickup truck, asked if we were here for recruit training. We all go, yes, and he says, okay, I'll be back. Wait here. Well, we ordered another beer. He gets back in about a half hour, and we walk over that bridge. He says, no, go over the bridge, find the building with the lights on. And all they really do is some old guy, Navy chief, says, you guys go sleep upstairs. We'll get to you in the morning. Thus, my first day, my first night in the U.S. Navy. What the U.S. Navy had taught me in my 21 years of service was the business of business. I learned how the Department of Defense is comprised of 5 departments itself, each of those a branch of military service, and how they run, how everything that goes into making them successful. And I was able to translate that into a corporate career. The Naval Training Center was transformed. Private corporations came in and took the parade ground where I had marched when I was 17 years old, where I'd graduated Recruit Training Command in front of the command center. They transformed it into a park where children play on the playgrounds. There's soccer games and volleyball games and half marathons run through here. There's housing and hotels and restaurants now all over. An arts district within the Naval Training Center that is absolutely fantastic and draws thousands of people here. I was here when it was functional, when it was military, when it was get the job done, salute everywhere you went, and now you could walk down the street, get yourself a nice meal, enjoy some history, go see some great art that's around the entire, what's now Liberty Station, used to be the Naval Training Center.
Hi, my name is Toby Geing. I worked at Naval Training Center from 1988 through March of 1993. I was the publicity director at first, and then I was the marketing director for MWR, that's Morale, Welfare, and Recreation. Some of my favorite memories here were the Christmas party that we put on for all of the sailors who stayed over Christmas. We took over Ingram Plaza, and we had Santa come in on a fire engine. We also had Santa's Workshop, which were many crafts booths that people could buy things at. But more importantly, we went down and picked up the sailors in a big old hay truck, brought them back here, and let them decorate the tree. The kids that came, we had 20,000 pounds of snow out on Ingram Plaza with Santa's sleigh there, and Santa entertained the kids as they came up. Each kid got a little present, and the kids could play in the snow. For most, it was the only Christmas they were gonna ever have, and nothing ever brought me more joy. The second event that was really historic was when the Russian Navy came to visit San Diego. At that time, I guess the Russian Chorale, which were their glee club, for want of a better word, they came out and they performed for us in the old auditorium out here, which is, I guess, the movie theater now. It was historic in the fact that that was the first time they had been on a Navy base ever, Russians had been. They sang our national anthem with as much respect as I have ever heard. It was absolutely beautiful. I was not sad to leave when they decommissioned the base. It was my time to go. We had built a wonderful marketing department. We had given the sailors, we found out what they wanted, and we gave it to them. And that made us feel like we had really accomplished something, that they went out of here knowing that their recreation needs could be met here. NTC has a 9-hole course here, and I think it was on the 5th hole. Also, the Navy band was stationed here. They played and at all, events, but they also had to practice. The building that they practiced in was pretty close to the 5th tee box. Being Americans, being on a Navy base, every time you heard the national anthem, you would put your hand over your heart, take your hat off. Sometimes it took us 10 minutes to tee off on number 5 because of all other times that they would start the national anthem over again. When I look at NTC then, and now I look at Liberty Station as it is known now, I'm very happy that they have kept some of the historic value here because it is very important. I like the job that they've done. It is beautiful, but more than that, it has a happy atmosphere. There are so many bases that were closed down, and it was sad to go see them. I'm not sad when I come here, and I don't think anybody else who was ever stationed here is. They might be a little surprised at how beautiful it is, but that's a good memory to leave with, I think.
My name's Elliott. I've been in San Diego since 1952 when I first arrived aboard ship in this area. Arrived here for a Class A electrician school, NTC campus here. And it was kind of a changing point in my life because so much was happening at that particular point. Very good awakening to me to what was going on in the world, what we needed to be doing, and it led me into getting my education, and the training helped me tremendously when I went back aboard ship because I'd already completed 2 trips to Korea by that time. So kind of brings me up to date. The Class A school was an intense. I always remember one of the comments the instructor first week, you get shocked when we're working on 440 volts. I guarantee you, if you live, you'll leave this class with a scar. And that was pretty intense. I understood that plainly. So on one of the return trips, the second return trip, we stopped in Pearl Harbor. My orders came in to come to the Class A school at NTC in San Diego. Marty had just graduated from a Christian college in Columbia, Missouri, and we were planning to get married back there. She had it all set up. And I called her and said, I'm going to San Diego for Class A school. Get your dress ready, put it in a suitcase, and come on out. We've been married for 68 years, coming up on 69. Friends I had in the Navy were on one ship, and it was just a kind of a challenging time. Getting married while all that was going on was even more challenging. And one of the things that happened is, as soon as I got out of the class, there was a tanker that had an explosion problem in Japan, and they had not finished their 7-month tour. The ship that I was on had to go finish that tour and do another one. So 3 months after we were married, I was gone for 10 months. Probably what makes our marriage so good, we were gone so long. After I graduated from the electrician's mate school here at NTC, I was sent back to the USS Kaskaskia, AO-27. We were an oil tanker, and it was like riding a bomb all the time, because we were delivering aviation gas, jet fuel, and black oil for the other ships. A lot of things on board ship that were not what I really wanted to do, but I had to do them because the electrical department was just a very few guys. And you either had cleanup duty in the compartments, or you had battery locker duty. When you're at sea, you can't stop and go to Ace Hardware. It's like you got to make it work. It taught me a lot about taking care of myself and the things that I own, my possessions, and being kind and loving and dear to other people too. So. By that time, I had been introduced to Corky McMillan through one of my study buddies. So he said, you need to come to work for me. He kept me on for 37 years. What I didn't realize at that time is just how much my family was going to be involved in this. Corky said, what's your daughter doing now? Kim was working, and she came to work for McMillan. That's where she really got her start interfacing with the finance part of the business, but she was deeply involved in this. This involved the city, the different development and disposition and development agreements. It took a long time. I cannot express the appreciation I had for him, the family, and Mark and Lori and Scott. The boys have treated me with a lot of respect, and I really appreciate that.
I don't consider myself a hero. I'm just a product of naval aviation training and put in the same circumstances other guys could and did what I did, and some even more. So naval aviation training, that's what made us what we did. My name's Captain Jack Inch, U.S. Navy retired. I was the NTC commander from June of '93 to June of '95 when I retired from the Navy after 30-some years. I took command from a fellow POW of mine who I knew, Captain Rod Knutson, on June of '93. A joyous occasion. This was my second shore command. I had been commanding officer of NAS Key West before that. And before that, I had a F-14 fighter squadron I was command of. So I was not new to being in command. 1 month after I took over, the announcement came out that the base would be closed. The mission we had here was service schools and the recruit training. We trained recruits, boot camp, and then we also had a number of schools. After they got out of boot camp, they would go to their first school before they went to the fleet. Those were still operational, so we had to continue to do that. But then we had a second mission, was that the base closure. So we finished out what recruits we already had in the pipeline, and then from then on, all the recruits went to Great Lakes near Chicago. So we had the mission then of not only continuing the service schools after the recruits left, but also we had to start shutting down the station. It's kind of a heartbreak in a way to learn that you're going to be closing down the base. Also, one of the things that we were concerned with because there were a lot of civilians that worked here too. When the base closed, they're going to be out. So another thing that was on my plate was to make sure that we got them placed elsewhere in other jobs that would be opening up in the civil service. If they wanted to, they could transfer someplace else. So, we wanted to make sure that people weren't just thrown out on the street without a job. So it was a pretty hectic time. We were going in on a mission, taken under fire by a number of surface air batteries. We managed to outmaneuver several of the missiles coming at us, but one that we didn't see went off right over the cockpit. Next thing I know, I'm sitting there, pilot in the front and me in the back. I looked down and shrapnel in the shards of the canopy had partially severed my left thumb. You probably don't notice I came back from war a little short-handed, so to speak. I remember screaming into the ICS intercom system, "Mike, can we get to the water, Mike?" Because we were just about 10 miles in by that time. Looked up through the cockpit and I saw that Mike was kind of slumped forward in the cockpit and he wasn't flying that airplane. We were going about 400 miles an hour and heading down about 3,000 feet. So I reached down with my good hand, got us out of the airplane. Training kicks right in. I looked up to make sure my parachute was open, and I'm floating down and I'm trying to get my radio so I could make a radio call to a wingman to let him know that I was alive. That was important to be sure that they know that you were a POW or that you were alive when they got you. I looked down and the high-speed ejection had caused my arms to flail, dislocated both elbows and pushed them up inside each arm like that, so I couldn't use my hands. And then I realized I heard some funny sounds going by me and they were shooting at me from the ground. And the bullets were coming up and hitting the silk of the chute. And so I pretty much thought, well, I'm in your hands, God. But luckily I wasn't in the chute that long, or else they were bad shots or a combination of both. And they didn't hit me. I landed in a rice paddy, went underwater, fought my way up, scooted over until I could prop my head against one of the walkways. Water around me kept splashing and they were still shooting at me. And said my prayers and said, here I come, God. This shooting stopped. They came slashing through, pulled me out, stripped me down to all my equipment, down to my underwear. They put me in this room, 12 by 12 or something. Had a desk, a stool, and a chair, a waste can in the corner for your body. And then for the next 3.5 days, around the clock, the guards would come in and jerk me off the floor, make me sit on a stool. And the interrogator officer would come in and sit at the chair. And name, rank, serial number, date of birth, that's all you're required to give. I'd give that, and they would ask more questions. They wanted to know various things, military-wise and everything. I said, I can't tell you that, blah, blah, blah. So that would go on for a while. So finally, at the end of that, I was delirious at some points. Blindfolded me, took me out to a medical facility someplace, strapped me down to a table. The doctor came in, took the bandage off of there, looked at it, got a scalpel and amputated my thumb. No anesthetic, no nothing. I'd like to say that I pulled a John Wayne and said, "Hey, Pilgrim, what are you doing there?" And I didn't. I screamed bloody murder. My God. I said, "Please, please, anesthetic, please. Pain, pain." I returned with the last group of POWs in 29 March 1973. So I was there for 7 months, from shoot down to return. And then spent 9 months getting put back together at Naval Hospital Balboa up here. Proved to the Navy that I could still operate everything I needed to in the back seat of a fighter. Got back on flight status. And my first assignment after that was I was the XO Top Gun for 2.5 years. And I had my own F-14 squadron as command, and then went on to various other things. And finally came to NTC for my last tour, and retired out of here. That was it.
I feel that was great. Good morning. My name is Gail Rosario, and I'm here to kind of give you a little background of what I had been from the time I started here as a recruit from the Philippines. So we did our boot camp training year, and after boot camp training, they sent me to a school called Steward Class A School. I've done a lot of training here from the beginning. That's where I got my skill, starting with leadership there. They were able to give me the basic background of what it means to be a sailor in the Navy. NTC acronym, I learned that from the Navy. There's so many acronyms in the Navy. We're really well known for that. I learned that when I first got in here in the NTC, Naval Training Center. So it really brings back memories to a lot because this is where I got my first seamanship training in the United States Navy, which gave me the basic fundamental how to be a good sailor in the Navy. The lasting memories NTCs after I finished all the services that I did being an instructor here. After learning the basic training, being trained here, I came back after several years until I became instructor. Rather than learning, I do the teaching and give back to the community and to the sailor what I've learned in the past, in the fleet, in the shore duty, and back again to impart my knowledge to these young people. Another important item that I did when I was instructor here was I was able to get promotion to what we call the Chief Petty Officer in the Navy. That's one of the most important items to transfer from the dungaree to a khaki. That's a time when I really see a difference between being a chief in the Navy and E4, E5, and E6. That's very important. Being here and getting a training at SSC NTC really gave me an opportunity to open up a new book in my life. Actually, with the basic training I gathered, I developed the skill and the love for academics and also the motion of determination to reach a goal. I went back to school and got my engineering degree. That really pushed me all the way up to applying from chief to become officer in the Navy. So I went there and jumped into that, become engineering duty officer in the Navy, and from chief, went down to ensign and climbed up the ladder and become a retired commander in United States Navy as an engineering duty officer. Went back to school, get my master's degree in electrical engineering, a master's degree in business administration, and finally, the terminal degree, which is a doctorate degree. And that's the basic fundamental I got by going through the process of training here at the Naval Training Center.